All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would stand with us for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Almighty God, we pause at the start of this meeting to give thanks for the responsibility entrusted to us and for the privilege of serving this community. Lord, grant this board clarity of thought, steadiness of purpose, and hearts committed to fairness. Help us listen carefully, speak respectfully, and approach each decision with integrity and genuine desire to serve the greater good. When challenges arise, grant us patience and wisdom. Lord, bless our commissioners, our staff, our residents, and all the men and women who serve in our armed forces. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Need an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There's no presentations. At this time, I'll open it up to general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no public comment, close public comment and come back to our first proclamation for the evening, which is Flood Awareness Week in St. Lucie County.
Resolution number 26-030, a resolution proclaiming March 9th through March 15th, 2026 as Flood Awareness Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. St. Lucie County has experienced severe weather in the past in the form of extreme rainfall and tropical system events, resulting in flooding in low-lying coastal and riverine areas. And this flooding has caused damage and flood losses to homes and buildings in all areas, whether they are high-risk special flood hazard areas or low to moderate risk flood zones. And it is important for residents to know their flood hazard. St. Lucie County is a volunteer participant in the National Flood Insurance Program that provides residents with the opportunity to protect themselves against flood loss through the purchase of flood insurance at reduced insurance premium rates, as well as setting higher regulatory standards to reduce the flood risk and potential flood damage to their property. The reduction of loss of life and property damage can be achieved when appropriate flood preparedness, control, and mitigation measures are taken before a flood. When residents and businesses obtain proper permits prior to building, including in special flood hazard areas, and build in compliance and regulatory requirements, they reduce the risk of flood damage. Protecting the natural floodplain in St. Lucie County is vital to maintaining wildlife and endangered species habitat, providing water quality benefits, and allowing for flood water storage. Public education and awareness of potential weather hazards and methods of protection are critical to the health and safety and welfare of residents. The Florida Floodplain Managers Association, FFMA, and the Florida Division of Emergency Management, FDEM, have declared the week of March 9th through 15th, 2026 as Flood Awareness Week to promote awareness and increase knowledge of flood risk, the ability of flood insurance, flood protection methods, building permit requirements, the natural and beneficial function of floodplains, and how to prepare for emergencies. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, in coordination with the FDEM and the FFMA, does hereby proclaim March 9th through 15th, 2026 as Flood Awareness Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Further engages the citizens of St. Lucie County to increase their knowledge of how to protect themselves and their property from the risk of flooding. Passed and duly adopted this third day of March 2026.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This evening, we have our Director of Planning and Development Services, Ben Balser, accepting. And Ben, if you want to say a few words and then come up and take a picture with the board.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioners. As Chair Fowler said, Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director, and in that capacity, I also serve as the county's designated floodplain administrator. And on behalf of staff, I just wanted to thank you for this proclamation. It really highlights the importance of understanding flood risk, proper permitting, protecting our natural areas, and ensuring that residents have access to flood insurance and flood mitigation information. Through this board's strong regulatory standards, public education, and participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, the county is currently at a Class 5 CRS rating, and that provides our residents with a 25% reduction in their flood insurance premiums. I would like to just say thank you for your leadership and your commitment to building a safer and more resilient St. Lucie County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Small, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. All right, and we have another proclamation this evening recognizing Irish American Heritage Month.
Resolution number 26-031, a resolution proclaiming the month of March 2026 as Irish American Heritage Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. By 1776, nearly 300,000 Irish nationals immigrated to the American colonies and played a crucial role in America's war for independence. 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence were of Irish descent and 3 were born Irish. Irish Americans helped to fashion a system of government for our young nation. 22 presidents have proudly proclaimed their Irish American heritage. In 1792, Irish-born James Hoban provided the architectural plans for the White House and served as one of the supervising architects for the construction of the Capitol. Irish-born Commodore John Barry was recognized by the United States Congress in September 2002 as the first flag officer of the United States Navy and fought the last sea battle of the American Revolution off the coast of Florida. In 1813, Captain Oliver Perry, an Irish American, achieved a major naval victory in the Battle of Lake Erie. In 1942, the 5 Sullivan brothers made the ultimate sacrifice during the naval battle of Guadalcanal and later had the destroyer USS Sullivan commissioned in their memory. The Irish first came to the Spanish La Florida in the 1500s, first as missionaries and mercenary soldiers, and then as planters, traders, businessmen, doctors, and administrators. 3 of the Spanish governors were Irish military officers. Friar Richard Arthur, an Irish priest who was appointed parish priest for St. Augustine in 1597 and ecclesiastical judge of La Florida, established the first public school in America and opened it to both boys and girls of all races. Andrew Jackson, whose family came from County Antrim, served as Florida's military governor following its acquisition by the United States. Irish Americans, since America's inception, have provided leadership and service to this national political, business, and religious establishment. It is fitting and proper to celebrate the rich cultural heritage and many valuable contributions to Irish Americans. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, hereby proclaims the month of March 2026 as Irish American Heritage Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Passed and duly adopted this 3rd day of March 2026.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This evening, we have Raymond Lynch with us. Maybe? No? Okay.
I can fill it on that.
Do you want, come on. All right, so we'll hold on to this and we'll mail it out. Okay, with that, is there an approval of the minutes from February 10th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consent, is there anything anyone wants to pull? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alright, going right into public hearings. Planning and Development Services, Indrio Groves rezoning. Good evening, everyone. Have a good night.
Chair Fowler, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm all for the consent and thank you, and we're here on behalf of Life Builders, thanking you for approving this opioid settlement money, and it will be used to do great things.
I have no doubt. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys for being here. Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Corey Benton, Planning and Zoning Manager, with Irene Settlemyer, Senior Planner, here as well. For agenda items 10A1 and 10A2 regarding the Indrio Groves PUD and the associated development agreement, we do have a request from the applicant to continue both matters to the March 17th Board of County Commissioners meeting to begin at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter. Both public hearings slated on tonight's agenda were adequately noticed via the appropriate channels. Staff is recommending that the board hold the public hearing, see if there are any members of the public that are wishing to address the board on either matter this evening, but we certainly recommend the continuance to March 17th where we can pick up both matters.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment for anyone wishing to address the board that may not be available on March 17th when we actually hear this item. Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment, and we are also still just going to do our disclosures as well per our county attorney. So Commissioner Clasby, may I start with you?
I've met with the project team and staff and members of the public.
And the general consensus of the meetings, as a reminder, is something we also have to put on record.
Just information about this application.
Understood. Commissioner Lowry?
Same thing, project team, staff, and met about the entire plan, infrastructure, and so much more.
I am Cynthia Angelos, Bob Rains, Leslie Olson, Dave Canfield, and Greg Pettibon, discussing the project in general, going over P&Z, sort of what staff and P&Z was looking for versus some of the concessions they were looking to make. Commissioner Lee?
Same staff and applicant, and we discussed the plan and several details in the plan.
Commissioner Townsend?
I'm the same.
Okay. And so with that, we would still just need a motion on this? Is there a
Yes.
motion?
Motion to continue to March 17th.
At 6 p.m. or soon after?
Yes.
Second.
Perfect. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to just open this second item up as well to public comment. It plays off the one that we just did. Is there anyone wishing to address the item for Indrio Groves PUD that may not be able to be here for March 17th? Seeing no movement, I'm going to close public comment and come back to the board. If nothing else, at least just say the same disclosures as the previous item for the record, if you would.
I have the same disclosures as the previous item.
Same disclosure.
Same disclosures as previous item.
Ditto, same as before.
Same.
Okay. And with that, is there a motion?
Motion to continue to March 17th, 6 p.m. meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Corey. All right, and that concludes our public hearings. We move into the regular agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Mr. Manning.
Commissioners. Sorry for the long item in the background, but in brief, February 10th, 2026, at the informal meeting, we talked about 6 different items at the airport, went into a lot of detail. So we're before you today just to ratify those decisions, get some clarity on a couple. the direction that we got at the informal was to seek out appraisals for a purchase or lease on 2 parcels on US 1 and come back to the board with that information. So we're looking to just ratify that decision. Also, we got direction to issue the RFP for a potential hotel site at the airport. We got permission to continue to direct negotiate with the vendor for a 90-acre parcel at the airport with some additional land to discuss. And then we also got the okay to complete the direct negotiation or bid waiver for the same vendor at the Airport West Commerce Park, as long as it matched the targeted industries as stated in our code. And then there's 2 items that we wanted to just clarify, and the only reason why we're asking for those is between the informal and now, one of the vendors reached out and provided some new options for the board to consider, and obviously since we don't have at administration level the ability to approve or deny that, we had to bring it to you all for that conversation. So Arrow East, as you know, we were working on some negotiation until that informal where the board made a decision to consider doing the RFP, had consensus to do the RFP, but since then that vendor had reached out and offered if the board would consider to continue the negotiation, and they raised the rent that they were willing to pay from 32 cents a square foot, which was 2 cents over the appraised value, to 34 cents a square foot, totaling $687,000 annually that we would receive if the board was inclined to do that lease. The other option that they offered was that we could split the 40 acres sort of in half, and I'm just paraphrasing, 20 and 20, and that they would like to have at least the 20 in direct negotiation, then we could RFP the other 20. So those are the 3 options for Arrow East. And since they did that, we thought it was only fair to share that on Arrow West. We had the direction to do the RFP for the little parcels E and F, which was about 4 acres. But the other vendor also wanted to continue to direct negotiate at the 32 cents a square foot, which totaled $62K annually. So we figured if we're going to talk about Arrow East, we might as well, show Arrow West as well to try to keep some consistency. So if the board wanted to keep moving forward with RFPs, we're ready to do that. If the board wanted to continue the direct negotiation, we would net about a little over $600,000 or $750,000 annually by doing those 2 leases if we were to get them to the finish line on those parcels. So we're just kind of looking for your direction on the whole overall recommendation, and then specifically what you'd like to do on Arrow East and Arrow West. And we do have a graphic we can pull up to show if the board wanted to get their bearings back on Arrow East. But we're ready to turn it over to you and figure out which direction you'd like to give us.
Okay. All right, I'll bring it back to the board for direction.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee.
I would like to proceed with option 2 on Arrow East, and what is it? Option 2 on Arrow West. On the Arrow East project, I believe the recipient is well qualified. They are bringing in their own business. We have been looking for people to make the airport more of a, quote, car dealership for aircraft, meaning that you can bring your aircraft in, you can get engine work, paint work, interior work, avionics work, tire changes, all the stuff that's available. Currently, there is not an airport in the United States that has that, and we have the land mass to be able to do that along with the commercial. This particular applicant has a very successful business down in the Fort Lauderdale area. They're willing to pay 2 cents more per square foot, and they are ready to go and start business. If we put it out for a RFP, we're talking much more delays, much more cost, and to find a company that's willing to put all of this in at once instead of just building the hangars and then searching for the business, I believe it's a way to go with the airport. And we've been sitting on the property now trying to get an RFP and people out there to do that. And as far as Arrow West, again, I think that the person there is willing to build some hangars and try to attract some additional businesses. We don't need to spend the additional money. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Arrow East option 2 and Arrow West option 2.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Clasby?
I stand by what we said at the informal meeting. I'd like to move forward in that direction,
Could you,
to go out to RFP.
for everything?
Well, not for everything, for the specifically Aero East. And then I thought we already kind of made the decisions on the others as well. But there's 3 items here up for discussion or just one?
6 total.
6. Do we want to go through each one?
So when we left the informal, it was, everything was going to get put back out to bid. Maite's going to correct.
I just want to
others.
clarify,
Yeah.
I believe you're
Two things.
speaking about just Arrow East and Arrow West, and the direction from the board at the informal was to RFP both of those locations.
So you're still with RFP, both the locations, all the parcels.
I haven't really changed my mind since the last time we talked about it publicly, so
So that's a yes. Okay.
love to hear the rest of the board,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lowry?
I have to agree with Commissioner Lead on this one for a number of reasons. Kind of feel like the airport's been stagnant for a number of years, and the commercial development is crucial to our economic development out there, and the more time we wait, put back out, get reappraisals, I think we're just wasting time and money. I'd like to see moving forward with both of them. It's fair that we direct negotiate with both of them at this point. We have plenty of other land on the airport to continue to build after that.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Lowry.
Madam Chair, if I could make
Commissioner
one
Lee?
more comment. I would like to emphasize too that we had the property appraised at 30 cents per square foot, and they are willing to pay 34 cents a square foot without negotiating, without spending the money on an RFP, without having to get another appraisal and spend the time for money.
Commissioner Townsend?
So I have a couple of questions, because I've heard 2 different things, so I need Maite to clarify. Multiple times it's been stated by her and George that if more than one party is interested in a parcel, it has to go out for an RFP.
So when we started this process and we did the RFP, I believe it was 2024, at that time we had about 6 interested parties on the exact same parcels. To be fair to all the parties, we did the RFP. Since that time, we received for Arrow East specifically 2 respondents. One was +1, and I forget the second company's name, but it was found non-responsive. We were only negotiating with +1, which was the board direction. When they stepped away, we only had one other interested party, which was Ident Aviation, and we've been negotiating with them based on the direction to date.
Okay, but that's not totally true, because there was another company that when +1 Air, when the board decided that we were not going to extend that negotiation with +1 Air, that if they didn't meet the deadline, it needed to be negotiated with somebody else or go back out. There was another company interested at that time, way before the other company had come in.
That is not accurate. Unfortunately, it was Ident Air. We had actually been negotiating with them for quite some time, even for the back parcels behind +1, and they were trying to negotiate between the 2 because they needed taxiway access. After the fact, Gulfstream came to the table, but we told them we were negotiating with another party at that time.
Okay. So my question is, if more than one party is interested in a tract of land, we do not have to go out for an RFP. It can be negotiated with you and that person. Just for clarity, because I've been told, so I want clarity here. If more than one person's interested, you, administration, can decide who you're going to negotiate with, or does the board have a say in who you're going to negotiate with?
The board has a say, and we've
Okay.
presented to the board, and we've brought it to informals, and we've brought it during briefings. The one party that was available, we were direct negotiating based on the board's direction that we could. After the fact, when somebody else came to the table, we said, unfortunately, we're already direct negotiating with somebody based on board direction.
Okay, so I heard about this particular thing when another party from the airport was in there, and you came in my office and you had told them that you were already negotiating. I did not know anything about this. That's irrelevant. I'm just saying that when somebody comes forward and they want the land, this was discussed at our informal even about doing due diligence. I still have yet to see a financial. And so I cannot make a decision based and give somebody something if I do not have financials. I have to make sure that if I'm going to vote on somebody and they're saying they're going to bid something, I want to see their experience because they have the site plan. They've submitted something. I'm going to look at the site plan and I want to know that they're qualified to do that. I'm not saying this company isn't. I'm just saying I do my homework. And so I have yet to see anything from this company about financials to show that they have the proof of the funds and experience, because I know one of the things they wanted was an FBO. I don't know that this company has anything as far as FBO background experience. So I'm not okay with option 2 because I think there's still unanswered things. For me to make a decision, I have to have everything I need to be able to make an informed decision, and I have to have the proof because, I mean, I'm bidding on millions, you know, I'm making a decision on millions of dollars here. So, option 3, I do think gives them the right to be here, and they have a right to be here. And they have a successful paint company, so there's no doubt that they're successful in the painting industry. And we need another paint company out there. There's only one. So I concur with Commissioner Clasby, actually, that we should not be changing our mind. That was agreed. It was agreed. But at the end of the day, there's been more conversations, and you can talk about things, and other things arise. So I'm okay if the board agrees with Commissioner Clasby to do 1, but I'm also okay to say that if they want to stick with the original plan that they came to me with, and they can show proof, but again, I cannot vote on this option tonight. I have to stick with option 1 simply because I do not have any proof of funds. I don't have any proof of experience. I don't have any proof of running FBOs. And so with me having none of that information of proof, I'm with Commissioner Clasby on this with option 1.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby.
A couple things about this, because I mean, it seems like time seems to be the biggest argument here, and why is time of the essence at this point? We've waited this long. We're about to enter into a potential 50-year relationship with a company, and I see no reason why we can't go through an RFP process on this, especially whenever it's pretty well known that at this point there's a couple companies that are interested. And you know, it's a big deal getting a second FBO out on the airport. You know, the RFP could even say best and highest use of the land. Maybe a second FBO is not even in the best interest to have out there at this point in time. I'm not sure. But if the market came back and said, we'd like to build this out there and this is what we can provide, I'd like the RFP to be open to a second FBO or anything else that could be bid on for that land. I think it's our fiduciary responsibility to not set a company up for failure as well. I mean, some of my research has shown potentially we can't sustain a second FBO at this time selling fuel out there. You want to make sure that the company going out there, it's the right time for a second FBO. I don't know that I'm specifically qualified to make that assumption, but you know, an open bid would definitely tell us if a second FBO wants to come out there. Well, that's an open bid, and they would tell us. Another thing is, you know, 60-day bid process. I mean, I'm sure administration could have it done within a reasonable amount of time. I don't think that that's a long time to wait, considering nothing's happened at the airport for the last 50 years. I'd like to make sure we get it right.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Townsend, just a moment. I think Mr. Landry was going to speak to the time frame for the RFP real quick.
So what will have to happen is we'll have to go out and reappraise the land. That could take up to 3 months based on the schedule of the appraisers and how busy they are. So we'll have to get that done before we can put the RFP out, because we have to know what we're working with. So let's just say we have 2 to 3 months for an appraisal, then the RFP would go out. It would be recommended that we at least have it out for 60 days to give applicants time to be able to put together a proper packet to submit on it. Then you're talking probably another 2 months through evaluation process and potential it's a two-tiered process where they might have to do, in-person presentations to the selection committee, and then it would come back before the board for ranking and the final pick, and then we'd have to negotiate a lease. So you're probably looking at based on our last two RFPs that we did at the airport of the similar parcel with no success, probably 6 months to a year to get to a finished lease from the time that the board says go. But again, it's up to the will of the board. That if that's what the will of the board is, we're happy to move that direction. But that's another we just would ask that the board remembers that as we move through this with Grace when they start saying, how come we don't have rent coming in at the airport?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee, just a second. Commissioner Klasby, do you have more?
Yeah, I can go with whatever the majority of the board wants to do in the situation, but I just feel I have to be compelled as to why time is of the essence here. I've heard it a couple times and just kind of grapevine things, but what exactly, why is time important whenever it's a very big decision, 50-year contract. I mean, I don't want to be rushed into something. We've had multiple meetings on this. We've kind of gone either way on it, but then at the last meeting we agreed to go out to bid, and I think that we have to just stick with the decision that we've made at this point.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lowry.
I was going to say, I was kind of on the fence initially, but was shown the proof of funds and, some more details that I wasn't aware of. So that's, kind of where I feel like there's promise in IDENT and in the future of the airport. But initially, I didn't feel that way because I wasn't provided the information.
Commissioner Townsend.
So, a couple of things. There's 1 million gallons of fuel currently today being sold at our airport. That is enough for one FBO, if you know anything about fuel and FBOs. There's not enough fuel being sold to warrant another FBO. But with that said, I think the competition breeds better, right? So I'm not saying I'm against an FBO because APP has been the lone soldier out there, but they're the lone soldier because there's been 2 FBOs. There's 2 FBOs out there. But what happened was the second FBO, Key Air, could not make it. So APP, being very smart business people, bought out that FBO, which then gave them both FBOs at the airport. So for years, they've been the only FBO out there. So there's 2 FBOs at the airport. They're owned by the same person. Currently today, they are moving 1 million gallons of fuel. However, another FBO coming in would be good. It's going to make sure that they keep their prices low and they can't price gouge, and it breeds good competition, in my opinion. So I'm not opposed to an FBO being out there, but I would like to know there's good FBOs and there's bad FBOs, and I am reluctant to have somebody come in and put an FBO out there that has no experience in running one. Now, if they could say to me, "Oh, I'm bringing in Millionaire," well, that's a very good FBO. I'd be all for that, right? So I'm not comfortable giving them all of this without the site plan of telling me who's there, and again, not showing me that financially they have the money to develop that. And with some of the other things you also said, Commissioner Klasby, the airport has been dormant, but in all fairness, APP in the last year has built 20 hangars. There's been a couple private people put up their buildings with chips, paint and stuff. So there has been some activity in the last 2 years out there at the airport, finally moving a little bit forward. It's not been as bad as it has been prior to the last 2 years. The last 2 years, there's been activity, and APP did a beautiful job. You all witnessed it. They went in and they remodeled. They have a true FBO at that airport today. It's taken 10 years of me complaining, but it's there. It's one of the most beautiful FBOs in the state of Florida. They did a remarkable job. And I think that there's even more to come. We all know that they just sold to another company that's going to do even better things, okay? And they have a lot of land still that they can develop. So, and I think that in putting up the hangars that they put up, they've seen before they ever broke ground, they were rented. So I think this new company sees the potential there, and I think they will move some of the airport forward as well. So so for the reason I'm with you, it's, we don't need to be in a hurry on this parcel. We need to get it right. It's a long-term lease, and I don't want to put somebody in there that is not going to be able to deliver what the vision of this board is. I want to make sure that whoever's going in there is delivering what the vision of this board has, and that the funding is going to be available and the experience is going to be there. So I just don't know what all you know as far as the background of the airport, so I just wanted to kind of let you know that those were the numbers currently, and I do, well, they've left now, but I thought I saw Zach out there, because they are moving about 1 million gallons of fuel, and that's not a lot, realistically, so.
Madam Chair, just clarify real quick. Sorry.
Commissioner Cosby, sorry, let me,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee was up next.
Thank you. George, what is the approximate cost to run the appraisal and the RFP back out?
The appraisals will probably be somewhere between $2,000 and $7,000 per appraisal. It depends on the quotes that we get back from the available appraisers. So, and we have to get 2 per each parcel. That we'd have to do that, and then the cost of the RFP would be just mainly staff time to do the review and come forth with recommendations to the board. But the real cost would just be into the appraisals that way, and not that trying to change any minds, but we just want to make sure that the information's accurate out there. But per our annual report and the last report, and I think Cameron's here right now to clarify, but I think we're just under 1.6 million gallons sold on average now at the airport.
That's actually was my next comment. When I was talking to Harold at the FBO, they're at 1.6 million gallons. We've been looking for the perfect scenario to build this airport, to make it a maintenance hub for aircraft. We currently have a company that we have been direct dealing with, that we have given permission to direct deal with, that has a contract currently with Dassault Falcon in France. This company has contracted with Ident to paint every single aircraft that comes in. Last year there were 229 Falcons sold in the United States, and they were hoping at 275. They get roughly $500,000 from this. I've seen letters of credit from the applicant in the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars of letters of guarantee. They will give the funds to build this. As far as the fuel, we sell 1.6 million gallons of fuel right now. When they bring in these aircraft, they have to defuel them, which equates to approximately 1 million gallons of fuel that they are willing to give the county to run their diesel equipment, because it's the same fuel. And the additional fuel that each one of these aircraft will purchase will be well over 1 million gallons. They are self-sustaining. They are also talking in negotiations with bringing another air ambulance company, and they love the location because it's right next to the fire station. So we got a company that paints aircrafts, puts the interiors in, has letters of credit that I've never seen before, has the financial aptitude, is trying to bring in an air ambulance company, is willing to put the fuel back to the county, and basically take no business away from the current FBO. And as far as the current FBO, I love APP Jet Center, but they just sold out to, what company was it? Bain Capital. I'm not really too worried about Bain Capital going broke. I was worried about APP, but not Bain Capital. And so, yes, I think this company, this is what we've been looking for. This has got everything in it, and they're bending over backwards because they need the time. When you talk about time, they're getting squeezed out of Fort Lauderdale is the reason they're coming up here. They want to bring their whole operation. And the other people that we're going to be talking about, they don't have the business. They're going to build the hangars and then look. These already have the business, and they're bringing in more business. As far as the FBO not knowing how to run it, they can build the FBO and hire Millionaire or Signature or whoever they want to if they wanted to. It's pumping gas is all an FBO is. If you want to throw a restaurant on there, great, but all an FBO is a gas station for airplanes. So it's not that hard to pump gas. That being said, I really encourage the board to think about this. We've got the perfect egg in our hand, and to postpone it, I think it's going to cost us money, a lot of money.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Cosby.
So I'm not talking ill of the company. I think that it's a reputable company. Not talking about their money. I'm talking about having a standard for when we direct negotiate and when we go out to bid. There is another parcel that we've agreed to direct negotiate with, and that's because they were bringing something physical to the table. They had a unique circumstance where they own a parcel that they're bringing into the airport. They've agreed to do that, and then we lease it back to them. That's a unique thing that only they could do. Okay, and then even that is a negotiation. There's due diligence that the county has to do. It's not a set thing just yet. On this one, other than bringing their services and agreeing to construct, I'm not sure what's specifically unique about that that wouldn't be had in an RFP, and why they can't submit what they're trying to do in an RFP process. I understand the additional time, but again, when we're talking in the time frame of our airport, a couple months is not that long. So, I feel like I'm up here doing I'm not knocking anything you're saying. I'm just trying to do my part to make sure, because the public's watching, and we need to make sure that we're clear as to when we direct negotiate versus when we go out to bid. And for me, I haven't really been given a good reason why we would not go back out to bid and allow them to submit their part on there. I've heard things said. I haven't seen anything in writing that they're going to run out of their lease at their current place prior to this being set up. I don't know that that's true. So, I mean, do we know that that's true? I don't know. I would like to see it go into the open marketplace, and even, like I was saying before, I understand how much gas is pumped from the annual report and all these sorts of things. I've sat through many meetings now on it, being educated about it. I've visited the whole thing. I just think that the free market should decide what's going to go there, not specifically us to sign a paper saying that this is definitely what's going to go there, because that's not exactly the best way to go about it. If no FBO bids, well, then that probably means that it's not going to be profitable for them. And that's kind of my way of thinking on it. But again, I'm one person. If the board as a majority decides to go that way, I'll go that way.
Madam
I
Chair.
think Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
I personally think that if we put it back out for bid, you're probably going to lose this company because they only have 18 months left on one of their leases, and they need to move their business because they've got a business. And this is what we've been looking for. And it's not a developer. Developers come in and they build the hangars and they sit on them like we did for the 4 years with the MRO hangar. These people already have the businesses coming in. What more could you want? I mean, what is the more perfect setup? You're talking about spending time, spending money, putting it back out to look for a company just like this. We have them. As far as the process, we went through the process. We went through the RFP. We negotiated with them. They backed out. This particular company actually thought they were in the RFP, and we started negotiating with them after the other one had already done. So we've done the process. Now, if we put it out for bid or put it out for an RFP, when are we going to stop? If we don't get somebody there we like, we're going to put it out for another RFP. We have the company. They're ready to go. They need to go. Enough said.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner Townsend.
So I know that there's scrub jays and turtles on this property, and that can be very costly. So who is going to be paying for the FAA wildlife mitigation on that property, on all those parcels? Who's going to cover that expense? Them or us?
So in the leases, they're responsible for the environmental aspects of the property. We are not aware of any scrub jays at this location. It's been evaluated for several years now, and there's been no evidence of any birds at that location, but there are gopher tortoises, and they would have to get permits to relocate them.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Classby.
do we know the time frame of relocating tortoises, how long that takes?
I honestly don't know that answer. They would have to get a permit from Fish and Wildlife Service and get it transferred. I'm looking over to Amy if she has a number or anything. I don't know the time frame.
Because, we just heard that
Well, Madam Chair, can I ask another question,
time
please?
frame
Commissioner
there.
Townsend.
If they're, see, this is the thing, you're wanting me to vote on something that I don't have these answers. I don't have proof that their lease is up in 18 months. I don't have proof that they have the money to do this, because the last I was told is they were out there trying to get somebody to build the building for them. So if they have the money, why are they out there trying to get APP to build a building for them? Because they came to us and we told them we don't build buildings, so they went to APP. APP said we don't build buildings, we do land leases. They went to Stewart. Stewart said we are APP. So there has been no conversations as far as where the financing is going to come from or the bank letters. And you're not going to come in, I don't think, Maite, you might know this, or Ben, I don't think you're going to get this through, approved, signed by the chair, where it needs to go, back out, run through planning and building permitting and site plan and all of that, and then be in that building in 18 months. I don't think that's possible. I think you're looking at a minimum of 2 years before, and that's going to be like if it's the perfect storm and everything comes together. So if it's a timeline that they need to be in this building by 18 months, they need to find a place to rent or extend where they are while they're building the building to get here, because you're not going to be in there in 18 months. There's a guy out there right now that's been building his hangar going on 2 years, and he's still not done.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner.
I can't disagree that I think it may take longer than 18 months to build, but if we put it back out for an RFP, we can't do anything with the tortoises. We can't do anything with the property. All you're doing is extending it. And again, what have we been looking for? They have letters of guarantees of money in the hundreds of millions of dollars guaranteed. We can make a stipulation that if the funds aren't there, we can cancel the contract. We are still direct negotiating with them. We can put in some language in there that if your concerns are money, let's verify the money. If your whatever concerns are there, I think we could put it up. But we have the perfect company. We have the perfect company right now, and they want to bring their business here, and we're doing what we're doing.
So I do just want to, because we've had a lot of discussion about this, and just want to remind everyone that our team came to us last year at an informal and shared with us what we had going on, what was in play, what they were starting to negotiate, who fell through, and at that point they asked for our direction. And we gave them direction. Our direction was the consensus. I don't remember the vote, but the majority consensus was, yep, go ahead and continue negotiating. And now, in the last couple of months, we've ran into this debacle with this. As this item was ready to hit the agenda, chaos erupted. So I want to make it clear to everyone that's watching that these parcels did go out to RFP. Okay, the process was followed. The original respondent ended up dropping out during negotiations. Our team came to us, the 5 of us, and said, what would you like us to do? The 5 of us gave direction, said, keep negotiating with the person in play. They did that. They brought the item to us, and now, once again, just to reiterate, now is where we're at. So I don't know if I heard it incorrectly, but one thing I heard that kind of perked my ears, and Commissioner Townsend, you made the comment that the plan, you were talking about the site plan, you said that the plan submitted to you was not what's being submitted. Was something submitted to you separate
I didn't say
from?
that anything was submitted to me.
Okay.
I said in the time frame it would take for them to negotiate the lease, get everything signed, go to planning or go to their engineer or whatever and get the site plan, bring the site plan back, get it to planning and zoning and go through all that process is about a 2-year process. They've never submitted a site plan to any of us that I'm aware of. Have y'all seen a site plan, anybody up here?
Would
The
they
5 of you?
submit a site plan as part of the negotiations? I mean,
So-
I know I've met with them and they've provided me with a very rough.
Yes, on
Yep.
several briefings with the commissioners, I have shared the site plan. It's a conceptual document that's actually attached to the lease because it outlines the uses, the location, the general locations, 'cause it is conceptual, and it actually gives a timeline of when they would construct those items, because the lease is built that if they don't meet those milestones, we can actually terminate the lease or take back the land.
And nothing against our FBO that's there, but one of the things that I've also learned in terms of fuel is that we're actually losing a lot of business. They're going down to Martin County because the cost of fuel here is so expensive. So imagine, so we need another FBO for the competition then. I mean, there's just plain and simple. If we are losing, if people are coming to St. Lucie County, but they're flying into Martin County and then being picked up by vehicle to come up to St. Lucie County, that's a red flag. That should be a red flag for all of us. So I don't know where you guys want to go with it. Quite frankly, I think this is an utter mess. And I don't even know if I want my signature on any of this, because there's so many accusations surrounding this contract. It's just, I don't even know. I'm almost inclined to pull it again, because this is just, we are not in a good place.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby?
I agree with your last statements. That's why I think it's cleaner just to put it back out to bid.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lowry?
how long have, Maite, how long have we been negotiating with this company?
I'm going to guess, I don't have the documents right in front of me, maybe like February of last year.
As part of the negotiations and the due diligence, and again, I know I've met with them, I've got their bank letters and everything that they've shared. Was that part of the negotiation process that you guys
Initially,
were
we
going
didn't
through?
get the letters, but we did do due diligence with our outside counsel, and I did a bunch of research on them as well, both herself, the business owner, her partners, everything else. We've done Sunbiz reports, we've gone all the way to Delaware trying to search for information. I've done all sorts of Google searches on her business, her contracts. They've mentioned federal contracts. I've gone and found them myself to make sure we were verifying the company and what they were stating they could do.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Townsend?
I mean, I just want to say, I stated earlier that an FBO is needed for competition. People are going to Okeechobee because gas is cheaper in Okeechobee, okay?
Crazy.
It's never bad to have competition, okay? And there's no doubt in my mind that the paint company wanting to come here is a good paint company. I mean, they've been there for a long time, and I know that they have overextended themselves there. There's no doubt in my mind. But again, for me to make a decision based on this and take this kind of land and negotiate something without me having proof, I cannot consciously make a decision when I do not have the records in front of me that I have seen. I'm being asked to vote on something and I have no proof of nothing. So with me having no proof of nothing, how do I make a decision on hearsay? So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, but I want to make it clear. I have met Louise. She's a wonderful person. I'm sure she does a wonderful job. I'm sure it's a great paint shop, and there's no doubt that they'll have the business. But a question I had was, if they have the money, why were they trying to get somebody to finance their paint building to begin with before they went for the bigger parcels of land? And so that's why I feel like there's still so many unanswered things in this. So I would say either take this parcel on Arrow East and maybe extend it out maybe to the next meeting, which would give us more time to go back and talk to Maite, talk to them. Maybe by then they have letters, they can bring them to me. If y'all don't need them, that's your decision, but I need proof if I'm going to vote on something. I cannot consciously vote on something without me having the proof before me. So maybe just extend out to another meeting and take it that way. Otherwise, I have to stand on option one, that it needs to go out for an appraisal, and as far as the time constraint, they're not going to be in a hangar in 18 months anyways. It just makes it cleaner by doing it that way, because we're all over the place up here. And I have one more question. Maite, recently in the last year, we've had things appraised out there, which is why APP's lease went up, and we arrived at 32 cents. So why, maybe this is a question for George, why would that have to be reappraised? Because it's been within the last year that it was determined, hasn't it been?
So it hasn't been within the last year.
Okay,
It was
so I thought it was
prior
recently
to the
this year.
RFP, which was in 2024, we had it appraised. And the
Okay.
FAA guidelines say that they're about valid for about a year.
Okay.
There's actually other standards that say they're valid for less time frame than that. For the RFPs, it was appraised at 30 cents a square foot.
Okay.
And then the appraisals about APP happened recently as well, but they were sort of backtracking values so
Okay.
that we could adjust their rent.
Because I was thinking it was during the same time frame that whenever you negotiated to increase the APP stuff too, so.
No.
'Cause I
Madam
wasn't
Chair,
sure
we
how far
did-
back,
we did do
because I
some
knew it was
appraisals.
done during plus one air.
We did do some appraisals for the 90-acre parcel during that time frame. It was July of '25 that we did those, and those were the ones that came back at 28 cents a square foot. So that we did do with the 90-acre parcel, but the Arrow East and Arrow
Okay.
West was not.
That clarifies it, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee.
I would like to remind the board that they are willing to pay 34 cents, that the real estate market in general terms has gone down, and the last appraisal on the other properties were 28 cents. So if you're willing to spend more money on an RFP and possibly come in at 28 cents instead of 34 cents, I'll leave it on your shoulders.
All right. Any other discussion? Commissioner Lee did make a motion at the very beginning of all of this, which if I recall correctly, Commissioner Lee, your motion was to approve options 2 for Arrow East and Arrow West. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
Okay, so that motion is still live.
I'll second it.
Can Madam Secretary, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Townsend,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Classby,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Laurie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Fowler.
Yes, ma'am. All right, that concludes that item. Thank you, everyone.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clausby?
I wish them the best of luck and, nothing but success. Feel like I needed to say the things that I said this evening because that's what I was put here to do, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we move into Public Works.
Madam Chair, before we go there, I have a question. I have some other questions about the airport. I don't know if it's best, since we were right here at the airport, that way I saw the director here as well, but if he doesn't stay for the whole thing. I just have other things, since we were on the airport topics, I have other questions. Do you want me to wait until commissioner comments, or do you want me to ask him now since we're on the airport?
Let's do commissioner comments, this way we stick with the agenda.
Okay.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Patrick Diane, Public Works Director for the record. I'm here to present item 11B1, which is a request for this board to consider an amendment to a contract for some culvert replacements, which would close Johnston Road for a period of about 2 to 3 months. And as this board will see tonight, there's been several projects, both anticipated and unanticipated, that have affected Johnston Road, the residents that drive on it, as well as some businesses that utilize Johnston Road for their revenue. One particular business owner has brought forth concerns regarding the timing of this project during the peak tourist season. Staff felt it was appropriate to go over these concerns and the timeline of the projects, as well as the costs anticipated with recognizing and amending the contract based on the business owner's request. And for more information on that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
All right, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Dan Zaralik, County Engineer. This is item 11B1. Before we get started, we just wanted to kind of explain what we're asking from the board. And as Patrick kind of stated, we're asking the board to consider the costs associated with accommodating a business owner and to direct the staff to either postpone the project with a start date of about June 2026, which would also require us to amend the contract by adding $49,900 for storing materials, and that would be the concrete box culverts and sheet piles within the county's right-of-way to advance the road closure. for the culvert replacement project, and we'll go through these projects in a minute. Or to direct staff to continue as planned and start the project as soon as we can. So this is just kind of a map to kind of give the public watching an idea where these projects are. You have Johnston Road in the center here, going north-south, and then it makes a turn and then goes north-south again. Down at the bottom here, we have Project 1, which is a bridge replacement or bridge repair project for this the bridge that goes over the C-25 canal, and that's down by Engle Road. A little further north, we have Meadowwood. North of Meadowwood, we have the project that we're contemplating tonight. That's 2 culvert replacement projects at canals 16 and 17. That's number 2 here in blue. North of that, we have the dangerous S-curve that you've heard us talk about, closer to Indrio Road, and we're designing a bridge project to eliminate that dangerous S-curve. So you'll hear that project throughout this presentation as well. So this is just a timeline of how we got here. We'll run through it quickly. In December 2024, we awarded the C-25 bridge repair project, which was south of Meadowwood down by Engle Road. In February, we went to Meadowwood and just kind of updated Meadowwood community of the projects that were coming ahead of them, because they're all going to be impacted by closures and lane restrictions on Johnston. In March, it was the start date for the C-25 bridge project. It was only supposed to last for about, the traffic impacts were only supposed to last 4 months. We're putting more concrete around the piles on the bridge. So to do that, we have to close a lane on the bridge. So we're restricted to a 1-lane bridge for about 4 months. We thought that was pretty important. So we let Meadowwood know that that was coming. This is what we presented to Meadowwood at the time. This is over a year ago. The bridge repair project was supposed to start in April and end in October. They were only supposed to be lane restrictions from about April to about June or July. Then after that, they would just use flaggers to do periodic closures. And then the 16 and 17 culvert replacement project was supposed to occur once those lane restrictions were lifted. So probably around June, we could get started. So at the time, that's what we were anticipating. At the bottom is just that bridge repair project, which was just in design at the time. In August, we awarded the bid for the 16 and 17 project. We did not identify a start date because the canal or the bridge repair project still had the lane closure at the time. The project contractor for the bridge repair project was having issues, had a couple blowout in their forms. We got concrete in the canal, so it delayed the project. We had to issue a change order in September to add 40 days to that project, which of course pushed back the start date of everything else. And of course, in October 22, 2025, we had the failure on Johnston Road to the north. So about half a mile north of Indrio, we had to completely close the road. And then we still had lane restrictions down at the south end at the C-25 canal. So we went back out to Meadowwood in November just to kind of update them on the construction projects. And again, this is just a map just kind of showing the public where we're talking. The full closure with that collapse of Johnston was up here at number 3. So this is what we presented to the HOA in November. It did have the emergency repair on there. At the time, we thought we'd probably start in November, and we weren't sure how long it was going to take. We were still getting quotes to do the repair. We haven't decided on a schedule for that one yet. So we presented that to the HOA at Meadowwood. We've updated the dates for the C-25 bridge repair project. Now it's April through December 2025, which before it was only October 2025. And then in blue here, we have the 16 and 17 project. Those timelines went from June now to January. So after the bridge repair project in December was going to be finished. So again, this is what we presented at the second HOA meeting. November 18th, the lane restrictions finally ended on the C-25 bridge project. They, of course, had more problems. We had to issue another change order, adding another 51 days to the project. And the anticipated completion one now was at the end of the year, December 31st. February 12th, we completed the emergency repair and reopened Johnston Road. And then right after that, on February 16th, we issued the notice to proceed for the Canal 16 and 17 culvert repair projects, or replacement projects. So this is just a slide kind of showing the difference in the timelines. On the left, originally Johnston C25 was supposed to go from April to August, and then that got pushed on the right side to December. Of course, during that time, we had that emergency repair in October, which pushed things back. Initially, we were trying to start the 16 and 17 project in June, and that got pushed to February. And then, of course, the bridge project is still in design. So that's kind of an outline of where we got, and I'll turn it back over to Patrick.
Thank you, Dan. So board members, as you can see, there's been a lot of moving parts and pieces respective to the various construction projects. Staff's really done a good job trying to keep everybody informed, especially the large HOA at Meadowwood. And ultimately, to recap, staff's really looking for board direction on whether to consider amending the contract, adding $49,900, which would postpone the start of construction until June 2026, or direct staff to proceed as originally anticipated, which would have construction starting, the contractor's really ready to go whenever we tell them to move ahead, and asking for board direction. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Patrick. Questions, comments from the board, thoughts?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee?
if we extend it, when will it be completed again?
Commissioner Lee, I believe that the total timeline was about 215 days for total construction timeline. So it's about 9 months.
Yeah, so again, what month are we in when
We would,
completion?
if you extend it, theoretically you would begin in June. If everything goes according to plan, you'd be done around March. That's weather permitting, of course. May through November is our rainy season, and we can anticipate a greater incidence of weather delays through those months.
Thank you. I've thought a lot about this, and I don't like hurting businesses, but we're in a catch-22. I don't want to charge the taxpayers $50,000 to offset this. If we postpone it, it sounds like we're going to be running into the season of next year. And there's a good potential if we run into a wet season that is even postponed longer than that. So I am for moving forward with this.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Chair
Commissioner
Fowler.
Townsend?
Commissioner Lee, just to clarify, when we do the 16 and 17 replacement project, we probably only close the road completely for about 3 months.
Okay.
Once they're they put the culverts in and they rebuild the road, they can work outside of the road and we can keep the road open. So it would only be closed for about 3 months.
Okay.
I was going to just say what he just said, but I also want to remind you that we take an oath, and on the very beginning of our oath, it's public safety. And so this was already in the planning to be done, and the collapse of the other culvert that was unexpected set this project back, or would have been done. I'm sure you have received the emails and the phone calls that I've had. I've had close to 100, and that's okay. I love that they contact me. But in having the conversations with them, they don't have all the information. So when I talk with them and I explain to them that, prolonging this puts me into hurricane season, and then if they have to evacuate, then it compromises lives. And I can't justify shutting down something for one business. I want every little guy to survive, but this is also setting precedents. If we were to do this and something else happens coming up down the road, and then that business wants us to do it, we have to think about our infrastructure, and that's got to be a priority for public safety. So, unfortunately, school buses, emergency services, 911, they all use that road. We need that culvert safe. We need that road open. And I did consider, and I'm okay if the board is open to this, I would prefer to move forward. I don't want to cost any more money to the residents. And all the residents would benefit from that, because all residents will pay that amount, not just that section of town. But Dan, if we were to move this forward, this really would not really begin until April to begin with. By the time they get the culvert set into place and they get everything over there, they're really probably not going to shut the road down until April 1st, correct?
I think that's probably.
Okay, so the reason why I bring that up is there are winter residents in Meadowood, and they'll be gone. They leave by Easter. And so that gives them another month to get the winter people here, let them finish up their vacations and have a great time and go back. And then it'll be shut down during the time that we're not in the middle of winter season and the snowbirds being here. And I think that's a compromise for the winery as well, because the winery will have until April and they'll have the winter season to get through, and then it'll be shut down during the summer or whatever. So I have a due diligence to all the people in St. Lucie County, and for the safety is the main reason for me, and I can't justify spending another $50,000, so.
Likewise, I'm definitely incredibly sympathetic, but none of us knew, we were going to have that failure on Johnston. And then obviously the double whammy of Johnston Road with the work going on just west of them and then south of them. So, yeah, that $50,000 price tag is eye-opening. However, I will agree that in mid-April start date, Mr. Roberts has already acknowledged would be a good compromise, and he feels like that would work for him. So I'm with keeping it moving forward, knowing that really the happy medium is going to get met after all.
So, Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion that we move forward with the plan for staffs.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. And moving on to county attorney item.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, Catherine Barbieri, County Attorney. What you have before you was on February 3rd, 2026. The County Attorney was tasked with placing on a future agenda a board discussion of the County Administrator's performance. As you're aware, there is only two direct employees to the entire board, myself, the County Attorney, and the County Administrator, Mr. Landry. Mr. Landry has been the County Administrator since March 2023. Unfortunately, we have no formal procedures that have ever been adopted by the board for this review of his performance. And so I'm recommending that the board discuss the County Administrator's performance. I'm here to answer questions or be of any assistance I can be.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can
Commissioner
I
Johnson?
I want to request one thing in moving forward. As you know, the board's forever moving, and there's a possibility of it there being changing every 2 years. And so basically, with this particular instance, his contract was up in a year that we had new commissioners coming in, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. And you're still learning, and you don't really know everything that's going on. So things slide by. So I think to be respectful to the future commissioners, there needs to be a clause put into any county administrator's contract that they have to let the board know that it's coming up. And then that way it's up to the board to say, well, we don't need to do an evaluation, we're good, and they can pass it. Or at that point, they're going to know and they're going to be alerted, because there's a time constraint in this contract that they have to have 90 days if they're not going to be renewing their the contract. So in respect of budget, like, it's going to be a little crazy next year moving into this because of the time frame, but then moving forward from that, if this was to happen in October, it still gives you the 90 days to be able to talk to whoever the county administrator is, to be able to, if for some reason you wanted to do away with them or whatever, but that's not done that often, I'm just saying. We want to protect the commissioners, and now's the time to do this if we're going to sit here and talk about a contract. So I think that every year it needs to be brought to the attention of the current board so that it doesn't just roll over and it's not evaluated. I think that there should be an annual evaluation every single year to whoever the county administrator is.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
That's good. Commissioner Cosby, just one second, I just want to make sure. Commissioner Townsend, did you have more? Or?
Well, and I just want to say one other thing. The other thing that I do want to say is, in looking at the numbers, we gave staff 4% raise. I believe that we should give our current administrator a 4% raise, take him to $250. And he has been awarded the same thing as our staff. We gave our staff. And as far as that, then I really have no other comments except I feel that he should be given the 4% and with the other verbiage added to the contract. I'm good.
Gotcha. Okay. Commissioner Clark, please.
Yeah, I agree with, this is my ask actually to have this. And, you know, I believe that anybody that we hire directly, county attorney, county administrator, we should have an annual public review of them, just so that way we all know where we all stand. The reviews don't have to be bad. As a teacher, you get a review every single year. They basically beg you to come back, but, you know, because we need more teachers in St. Lucie County. But, you know, there's always a review, and maybe even we move forward to kind of standardizing it where we can have, you know, each be asked the same question that we could each respond to, more so than just, you know, up-down type of things. Because if there's specific areas that we are having issues with, this is the time to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it throughout the year. You know, we can talk about it at a standard time. But having said that, I just wanted to say how impressed I am with our county administrator, George Landry. He is a mission-driven individual. He handles his role as the county administrator with the same seriousness and professionalism that I'm sure he did in the United States Army. And I couldn't be happier with him. Whenever I have a question for him, he gets the answer. Whenever I first came on the board, he did a wonderful job onboarding me as a new commissioner, introducing me to everybody that I needed to be introduced to. He's available 24 hours a day, and I use my county cell phone to call him whenever I deem fit, actually. So he doesn't get a day off, ever. I make sure of that. And I think that he's doing a wonderful job. In addition to that, he took the feedback from this board after our last budget process. That was my first one as a commissioner, and we have done things a certain way. I'm kind of an agent of change, although I'm slowly accepting incrementalism as a you know, acceptable compromise rather than just coming in and changing everything. So bits and pieces I'm going to continue to press to be changed. The budget process being one of them. This year I think we'll see quite a bit of difference with the level of discussion that we have with the budget and the level of transparency that the public has access to, which I'm really looking forward to that. Having said that, I think that I'm willing to go above what Commissioner Townsend said. I would like to bring both of our board-appointed employees to the same pay level. And by that I mean to bring George to what we are paying our county attorney. I would be more than comfortable with that. I think that in the past we have had, you know, there's some sort of, you know, edginess that goes on between the administrator and the attorney. Maybe it's because I don't know, but I think that our county administrator does a high level of work, has a high level of responsibility, and when you compare that to what, say, the city of Fort Pierce's administrator makes, and the city of Port St. Lucie's and other surrounding counties, I think it would be fair to bring him up to the level that our county attorney is.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee.
Well, I've got nothing but accolades to say. Obviously, I was one of the 5 that voted him in, and one of the reasons that I did is he's been here, I think it was 15 years at that time. So there was no getting to know everybody, no 6-month delay. He hit the ground running. We immediately turned the MRO around and went from a $20,000 a month loss to a $17,000 a month profit. We eliminated the airport director, saved over $250,000 a year. He has hit every project head on. Is he perfect? No, but he's doggone near close. And as Commissioner Clasby said, he is yes sir, no sir. And I do not have a problem at all bringing him up to comparable salary of our attorney. I think that if you looked at the open market and what we are currently paying them, they're underpaid. If you went out on the open market, we'd be paying more. And I think George, for what he has done, he hasn't had to have any break-in periods. So I am with Mr. Commissioner Clasby as far as raising it to equal to the county attorney. And good job, George. Good job.
Madam Chair. Made a couple notes. Like Commissioner Clasby said, as a new commissioner, he was very welcoming, especially with little to none experience in local government. He is always there to answer questions. One thing distinctly is the fact that he's internationally accredited. You know, a lot of different businesses give you a stipend for those kind of specialty things, and I think that's huge because every county administrator has that. He makes, not too far off of what the city of Fort Pierce city manager makes, and he has a lot more responsibility. I am all for equaling his pay to our county attorney, and I have to say, George, thank you from the bottom of my heart for working not only for us commissioners, but for the taxpayers as well. He's already preparing for, what's possibly to come in the future with the elimination of property taxes, and I think that's very stellar for him because he likes to be prepared, and he's thinking forward, and couldn't be prouder to work with him as a team. Thank you, George.
All right, well, that leaves me. So, yeah, I have to say, coming in under a different administrator and then seeing Commissioner Lowry and Commissioner Clasby and seeing the difference in reception and setup and all the things, I mean, it really was, a red carpet, like, I think you guys had lunch and met and talked even before, you came into the office. I mean, that did not exist. It was like, oh, hi, you're here, there's your office. So no, seriously, the difference onboarding, what me and Commissioner Lee experienced compared to what you guys experience is night and day. You used a word that I used 4 years ago when I was advocating for George, which is he is mission oriented. You give him a task, he is going to get it done, and that holds true 4 years later. George, incredibly impressed with your response, and the whole team, of course, absolutely, but with your response for Hurricane Milton. I don't think this man slept for 2 weeks straight or saw his house or, any of that. He was here for us, for the residents of this county, 24/7. He's always responsive. He's reasonable. Like you said, you can get him 24/7, whatever it is. He keeps you in the loop. If there's, if you're not in the office and something comes up, he's calling you to let you know what's going on. Great under pressure. And, I think the biggest indicator for me is when you get the calls from other leaders in the community, like when I get a call from a constitutional, when I get a call from the sheriff saying, you know what, I don't know what we would have done without George last night. He's a gem. And that's not a one and done. I hear that several times a year throughout the year from different people. So I just want to let you know, George, that I still very much support you, appreciate everything that you do, everything that you've done with the team since you've been here, and very much am in your corner still. So pay, I'm all for it. However, my only hesitation, right, is going into the budget and not knowing. So I would say I concur if what flushes out with property taxes allows it to happen. How's that?
Well, Madam Chair, and I was going to say, for me, that's what took me there. We want to cut the budget, we want to lower the millage rate, and we don't know what we're going to lose in property taxes. So for me to do more than that, I felt like it was fair to give him something, because I concur. George is, nobody can say he does not work. I don't know that the man ever sleeps, to be honest with you. But the other thing too that I took into consideration is Catherine almost 30 years. She's got a law degree, her experience. So for me, I felt that the lawyer should make more than the administrator. I felt that way even with Howard. You know, they don't have a law degree, and Catherine being with us 30 years, I felt that, you know, there needs to be a little bit of an edge for her to make a little bit more than the administrator, even when Howard was here. We talked about this with Dan and everything as well. And so for me, I concur with you, because for me, the whole thing was, he deserves a raise, but I am mindful of what's coming up in the budget, and we don't know what the unknown is, and having to cut the budget. How do we cut the budget and add 20-something thousand? Because we're going to have to make cuts elsewhere too. So that was the reasoning for me coming up with the 250. But hey, if all the money's there and we don't have to cut the budget and property values are up and everything's good, George, you can go home and have a whiskey sour tonight.
Too bad he doesn't drink. No. Commissioner Clasby?
I'm confident we can find it in the budget this year to go ahead and make the change, and I'm willing to make a motion to increase our county administrator's pay to that equal of the county administrators.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Cameron, I know Commissioner Townsend has some questions, so I'm just going to ask you to come up now if that's okay. Yes. And Commissioner Townsend, I'll start with you, ma'am.
So some of this might be my take, and George and him.
Okay.
In talking about the budget, I usually try to find a department and go through and dissect it every single year that I have been here. Last year I started with the airport. And so in trying to be mindful of what we can do and where we could cut it, and talking with one of the girls at the FAA, and I've also talked to the neighboring counties, airport managers and stuff, because I can't find some of the things I've been looking for. So one of the questions that I have is the airport is supposed to have their own account per FFA regulations. I have not been able to find that anywhere in the book, that we have our own account at the airport, that whatever transpires at the airport goes in that account is specifically for that account, and those funds at the airport are not to be commingled with anything else with the county and the general fund. So does the airport have its own account?
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner, so all departments have their own funding code in their own accounts. Now, whether there's monies transferred in or out of them through other resources, then that's done through the budget cycle. But every single department has its own org fund account. There are some similars when you look beyond the org and the fund, where they all match with the numbers of, like, for travel. Everybody has the same 6-digit number for travel, but it's the org and the fund before it, and that has its own for the airport.
But what I'm saying is, there's very fine guidelines of what I have read and what I have had conversations with, that the airport is to have its own account, and the money that goes in from anything that we do, rent or whatever it is that we have, it goes in that account. It is to stay in that account. And if we were ever audited on a financial audit by the FAA, I've been talking about the FFA kids, I don't think we would pass that audit, because I don't know that we're doing that. So are we doing that?
We are,
do
and
have
we have an
fund-
annual audit every year, and we can provide that gets done by our third-party auditors that the board and the clerk does, but we can also verify with the FAA that we're in compliance, but we've not
Okay,
had
so
any
for
issues.
example.
And we do have Fund 140, which is specifically the airport fund. So all our grants, all our revenues, everything that come to the airport go to that fund and stay with the airport.
Okay, so for example, I'll use the golf course. The golf course is on airport property. There should be an at-arm's length that we should have a lease with the Fairwinds, and Fairwinds account should pay the airport rent, and then that goes in that airport account. Are we doing that? Do we have a lease with the airport, and those are at arm's length for total transparency of all the regulations under the FAA? I mean, are we doing that?
So being that it's a county golf course and it's on airport property, and being that the general fund is supplementing the airport operation because the airport is not self-sustaining today, so it requires general fund based on what was approved back in the day with the golf course being there through the FAA back long before any of our time up here. It was understood that because the general fund is putting that supplement into the airport, that covers the revenue for the golf course being on airport land, and it satisfies the FAA's requirement.
So if we were sufficient and we were doing our own, then it would change?
We would
But
have
right
to-
now,
we would have
because
to
we're
amend- we
still
would have
having
to adjust
fund the
that.
airport, that's what makes it different?
Correct. We'd have to adjust that as we move forward and get the airport to a self-sustaining, and we are working through a process right now to clarify that with an agreement, because the stuff that was done, I think, 20, 30 years ago, and it's on the list of new things to be updated.
Okay. And then, where are we at with the FAA justifying the process? How's that coming along with the extension of the runway 10 right? Where are we at with that?
Yep. So the justification study has been completed by the consultants. It's currently in the FAA's hands. They're evaluating it. They have up to 12 months. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many months we are into it, but it is in the FAA's hands at this time.
All right, because what I'm hearing is we're not going to get it because they can't justify that we need it because we have no aircrafts to justify getting the runway, which then led me to having a conversation with her that if you can't find justification for this, how are you going to justify going after the other place off of Indria Road where we're wanting to put the other terminal over there? If we can't justify the 8,000-foot runway, how are we going to get justification for the terminal off of Indria Road? Because there's no justification according to them.
So any additional terminal off of Indrio Road specifically would be years down the road. So you're right, we would have to justify any new terminal, especially off of Indrio Road, because I don't know the exact distance from the runway to Indrio Road, but it's a very long distance, and no aircraft is going to taxi that long. So part of the master plan, which is starting in 2027, it's a 50-year plan, so that would be part of what we're looking at in the future. But for right now, our main focus is the runway extension of the main runway and not necessarily looking at additional runways or the additional terminal.
And the conversations you've had with them seems to be on task?
The answer I've gotten
They're
from
justifying it because the stories I'm getting are that they're not justifying it, so we're not going to be getting it.
I have not heard from the FAA recently, one way or the other, on
Okay.
the runway extension.
And then the other thing is, because we're talking about budget, is we don't charge for a landing fee. Why are we not charging for landing fees? Because that would cover approximately 3 employees' salaries. I'm looking for ways to make the budget here, so why are we not charging a landing fee?
So that's something, if the board wants to look at that, I can look into that and we can work on it. The reason we don't charge it now is A, it hasn't been charged before,
Right.
and B, it would probably take another staff member to keep track of all of the takeoffs and landings.
No, and I know this isn't you. It's not any of y'all's administration. We have never charged a landing fee out there, and
Right.
I've questioned this for 10 years. I questioned it with Stan, John. Like, that is low-hanging fruit, money on the tree that is going to cover salaries. I mean, landing fees would cover that employee plus probably 2 more. So why are we not doing it?
So keep in mind, if we do start charging landing fees, the traffic will drop, just based on that. But if that's
Well,
something
it
the board
could.
wants to do,
And
we can
that's-
certainly look at it.
It could, but I don't think it will. But okay. And then the other question I had was the utility plant. So the utility plant is on airport property, and according to what I've been told, again, with the lease, that we're supposed to have a minerals lease between the utilities and the airport, and that the utilities are supposed to pay the airport for the minerals lease.
Just to be clear, the utility is not on
The
airport
wells.
property.
The wells.
The wells, we are working on a lease. There is nothing drilled today. We actually have it under works right now. We've been looking at what other locations charge because it's sort of like a mineral rights for the water draw.
Right.
We're already working on that, and when that is prepared, it would come before you for consideration.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The wells are on the airport property, not the
Well, there isn't any wells right now. We're actually looking at a design, but there'll be a long time before we put the wells at there.
But whenever you get them, then there will be the minerals lease between the airport and them. I just want to make sure all this is out there, because there's been so much stuff happening on that airport, and again, way before y'all, that's not been done. And because the 139 certification and all the things we've got going on at the airport, it is imperative that we get every single thing right, because we are going to really be having true FAA violations if we don't get there. So I just bring this up because these are questions I've had. I've had some of these questions for 7 years. These started with Stan, some of them, not the utility part of it, but some of it. So you've answered my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you. Again, you know, these were way before y'all.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we're well aware of the FAA, being that we're the ones that we submitted the 139 application and the 83 pages, and we're well aware of what all the regulations are, and we monitor it all the time out there, and we will not let it fail or fall through, and so we're well on track of it. And
So they just had wasn't there just an inspection out there at the airport?
Yes,
And how'd we do?
we passed.
Good. All right. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Clausen?
Just wanted to take care of one piece of business really quick to clarify what my motion was before, because I've been sitting here thinking about it, and I think I might have had a verbal Scribner's error there. My motion, just to clarify, was to make the county administrator's salary equal to that of our current county attorney. I think I might have said administrator twice.
Yeah.
So, just
Got
so
it.
everybody's aware.
Okay.
And then also,
Can I just have a consensus that was the intent of the board, because we're going to use the minutes as the backup? Is that everybody
Absolutely.
agree?
He might have said the wrong word, but I heard the right
Trust
word.
me,
I
the
guess,
clerk
so.
got it. She didn't listen.
Okay, thank you.
I overthink things sometimes. I just wanted to share some news. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Conference Room 3, the Treasure Coast Council of Local Government will be meeting, and our guest speaker is Brandon Dambeck of the Vero Beach Airport. He's their operations manager. The Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments is a consortium of various elected officials from across the Treasure Coast, and very much looking forward to that update by him. And then in addition to that, this week I will be meeting in person at the Vero Beach Airport with Councilman Taylor Dingle and their airport director. They're going to be giving me a tour and sharing me all their secrets that I can bring back here that we can, help improve our airport as well. In addition to that, I have scheduled Teams meetings with Loudoun County Supervisor, Vice Chair, and Administrator, as well as their Chamber of Commerce CEO. And I'm looking to still schedule meetings with their the North Virginia Builders Association and North Virginia Realtors Association, just to try to get a roundabout approach of what their stance is on data centers and their experience with them. I think that going outside of just the government is probably a good approach, and I recommend everybody to make those meetings. But in addition to that, just wanted to say how thankful I am to have our board. I feel like we have all grown closer together, and we're all working better each meeting for the benefit of the taxpayers of St. Lucie County.
Thank you. All right. I will just share that I also this week spoke with Adam Lunn, who's the Assistant Airport Director up in Lakeland, and had a good phone conversation with him and picked his brain about some of the successes and pitfalls that he had in Lakeland and what worked for them and what didn't work. So yeah, absolutely, it sounds like we're all doing our due diligence, which is great. I do want to say, it just came across my phone. We know over the weekend the unrest in the Middle East, and some soldiers have been killed, and one of the 6 U.S. servicemen killed in the drone strike was actually a Winter Haven man. So I just want to send my thoughts and prayers out to his family and all the soldiers' families that are out there serving our country and keeping us safe. So anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee?
First of all, I'd like to let everybody know it's not raining out at the fair lately. Last weekend was a little bit wet, but I encourage everyone out there to go hit the fair and just have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, George, you're up. Upcoming meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, before I say it, I just want to say thank you very much for the kind words and the motion. I'm humbled to serve as your county administrator, but I would be remiss to say that the success isn't without the team. We have an amazing team of directors and staff all the way down to the lowest level, and they just rock it out every day, and we would not be as successful without them. So I owe most of it all to them. So thank you all for all your support, and thank the board for that. That being said, the Board of County Commissioners will hold an informal meeting on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 9 a.m. here in these commission chambers, and the Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, March 17th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers located at 2300 Virginia Avenue here in Fort Pierce, and Eric will close us out with announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. St. Lucie County's Parks and Recreation staff invites families to attend the Spring Fling 2026, which is a 4-day spring break event taking place March 16th through the 19th from noon to 4 p.m. at the Haverdale Fen Center located at 2000 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. Spring Fling offers free recreational and educational activities for youth and families, including basketball, pickleball, craft sessions, and a reading corner with story time. Each day at 1:30, community partners will provide interactive presentations, and the week concludes with a pop-up mobile wreck and roll event on Thursday, March 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the St. Lucie County Skate Park located behind the Fen Center. For more information, residents can call the Parks and Rec staff at 772-462-2110. And we encourage residents to dive into fun as St. Lucie County's aquatic staff host the annual St. Patrick's Day themed Leprechaun Luau at all 3 public pools. These family-friendly aquatic events feature music, activities, community engagement in a safe and fun environment. Leprechaun Luau's take place from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday, March 16th at the Ravenswood Pool, located at 400 Southwest Ravenswood Lane in Port St. Lucie. Tuesday, March 17th at the Arthur Lee Boatwright Pool, located at 1311 Avenue M in Fort Pierce. And Wednesday, March 18th at the Lakewood Park Pool, located at 5990 Emerson Avenue in Fort Pierce. For more information about St. Lucie County pools, they can go to stlucieco.gov/aquatics. And if you'll allow me, there's a couple announcements that didn't make the print edition. As Commissioner Leet said, the fair does run through this weekend, and the Tourism and Venues Director asked me to plug that tonight. My favorite event is Saturday, the Demolition Derby, so get your tickets now, and you can go to stluciecountyfair.com to get those tickets. And lastly, even though we have had rain, we are still under a burn ban, so we are encouraging residents to heed that warning. I know ERD's been out even this week to a couple brush fires, helping the fire district. So those that are watching, please still follow the burn ban.
Thank you. I actually had someone ask me about that today. All right, everyone, have a great night. Meeting adjourned.